Welcome to the Wellness League podcast with your host Ella. And today, my friend is Emma Quinn. Emma is a world champion level triathlete as well as coach at EQ Performance Coaching. So, shall we dive in? All right, let's get started. So firstly, who are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Emma Quinn, so I am a triathlon coach. Been doing triathlon for 15 years now, and yeah, I've had a number of athletes I work with who've listened to and really enjoyed your podcast. So it's a bit of a privilege to have you ask me to come on, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for saying that. So, what's your earliest memory of being fit?
So I grew up in country New South Wales, in Arndale. So to be honest, I've always loved sport. I've in everything. I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to do anything in terms of soccer, netball, running, cross country, swimming. When I moved into high school, I also got a little bit, I guess, netball. I remember not loving sport or not having sport on, even in kind of 17, 18-year-old. So I guess it's always been a big part of my lifestyle and a passion of mine, and luckily it still is, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. I was very much the same growing up, and a lot of people I've interviewed over the last 2 seasons, you find that the ones who've gone far in sport are the ones that always played sport through school and, yeah, really enjoyed it. So you said about triathlon. So what's your earliest memory of getting into triathlon, and where have you gone from there?
Yeah, so as I said, in high school, I swam and I ran at quite a high level. I was never kind of got to a national level, but I got to a state level. And it was actually my high school boyfriend at the time. His mum was a marathon runner, and she was also a really an amazing cyclist. And she had all these beautiful bikes in the garage. And I think she kind of said, why don't you take one of these bikes for a ride and see if you like it? The triathlon scene in Armidale was obviously a little bit limited. It was only a few races in the summer. We swam in the local, like in the private school pool, and rode out on a country road. And I started taking a bike for a ride. I was so nervous that I was going to, do something wrong or damage it that I wouldn't change gears. So I would ride those hills in the in this low gear, not changing it, and then I would ride back to their house and drop this bike off. So yeah, I guess she probably had a huge influence on me kind of putting the three sports together. And then, a couple of years later, I moved to Brisbane to start studying at UQ, University of Queensland. And obviously the triathlon world up in Brisbane in Queensland was, quite different. And it kind of all blossomed from there.
Oh, good. So training for triathlon, what did you always prefer? What did you find was your strength coming into it?
Yeah, so ironically, it actually ended up being cycling. So I was, I think I'm quite strong on the hills, I guess, from not changing gears for a couple of years. We'll do that. And I was quite a good cyclist, quite a good runner, and even despite having always swam, I was never kind of in that front pack of swimmers. But I just enjoyed all three. I had such a great group of I guess high-end age groupers that trained out of UQ, and for 5 years while I studied there, that group was so fundamental to me loving the sport and to reaching at a fairly high level. The Queensland Academy of Sport would also have triathlon squads training out of UQ, so you'd always see parts of what they were doing, and seeing Ashley Gentle, Emma Jackson, all those kind of amazing athletes that have come out of Australia training right next to you. I guess that was kind of really motivating as a young athlete in their early 20s wanting to I guess see what they could do in the sport. And obviously I was never at that level, but it was a continual just desire to see what level I could be at and enjoying it. And it was a really good culture there at the university to be a part of.
Yeah, that would have been so motivating having athletes like that next to you. Wasn't there a bit of like an Olympic swing base out of that university as well?
Yeah, it had quite a high performance sporting culture, I guess, out of there. Many of the MMR, lots of the people who, would target Olympics games would be
Yeah.
training out of there. So I'm very lucky, I guess, and
Yeah.
very lucky to be just in an environment where that was kind of the everyday to see those athletes, and pretty eye-opening to see how hard they work and how hard they train all year round.
Yeah, absolutely. So starting to race, what distances were you doing, and then how did you build up to the longer distance? Did you go as far as the Olympic distance, or did you go into Ironman distance then?
Yeah, so I just started with sprint triathlons, and then I think it was my second year of university. The coach at the time of the group said you should go and do these few races because the World Championships in 2009 were in Australia on the Gold Coast.
Oh, cool.
And if you do well at these races, you might qualify for the sprint team. And I kind of had no idea what that all meant at the time.
Yeah.
I was at a reasonably high level as an age grouper, so I did quite well in those races, and I kind of qualified for the Australian team as an age grouper, and had, as like I said, not really sure what that meant. But I just loved it then. I was one of my close training friends, she was Canadian and she qualified for the Canadian team, and we kind of went down to the Gold Coast, had no idea what we were doing, and you got a green and gold kit, and I remember saying to my mom, I need to buy every bit of uniform because I'm never going to be able to do this ever again. So just make the most of the experience. And kind of from there, I think I did my first Olympic distance down in Byron Bay, which was purely just like a fun weekend away. I remember standing on the start of the swim start, and the swim courses where you can see the start and the end, and just looking out and thinking, oh my gosh, how on earth am I going to do that? 1,500 meters looks like a very long way in an open strip of water, but that kind of Olympic distance I did for years, quite competitively. Went on to race over in Europe in a subsequent few more age group world championships, raced in China and New Zealand, and I just that was my love. That distance became my passion and what I became quite good at. And then from there,
what's your favorite place that you raced in?
I think Beijing. I think it was a really amazing experience. They take such a pride in their country and welcoming people in. You felt like a rock star just as an age group triathlon, potting around doing a triathlon on a Sunday morning. But, and the experiences we had after that, like, the group, the Triathlon Australia organised a group, and we went and did the Great Wall of China and just things like that. Like, that was a really amazing place to race. Europe is beautiful as well, but I think coming from Australia, we don't, that cold water, when you're swimming kind of 12, 13-degree water, we really don't have that. You might a little bit more down in Victoria, but we don't have that up here in Queensland. So that was always, I really struggled racing in the cold.
Down here in SA, you definitely, most pools are probably like mid-20s, high 20s, but like I honestly would rather swim in cold water because you kind of, once you do it during get started, you get warm and it's much better than swimming in a hot pool.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. But so fortunate enough to have raced in lots of different places all around the world. And then from I think it was around 2014, I did my first half Ironman. And I've done 11 of them since. So I also love that distance. Have never done an Ironman. I've been immersed in the Ironman world a lot, but I'm a mum and I've got 2 little kids. And for me, at this time of life, Ironman training and racing wouldn't fit in quite at the moment very well.
Do you see one happening in the future once the kids are a bit older?
I think so. I would love to, I'd love to do it. I'm not one of these people that feel, that it's like I don't have this drawing to it that I feel I absolutely need to do it. But definitely, I think if the love for the sport is still there, and if the time is right and life allows, and you've got a supportive network around you, then definitely I'd love to do one in the future. But we'll see.
So talking about the 70.3s, whereabouts did you do those all? I know there is is it 3 locations that you have? So there's Cairns, Noosa, and is there another one? Well, Port Mac is close to you as well. Did you do any of those?
Yeah. So I've done, Busselton was my first one over in Western Australia. I've done Cairns. Yeah, I've done Cairns a number of times.
Chat on this podcast.
Yeah.
Bustleton gets mentioned, I reckon, every time I talk to a triathlete, they have either done that or want to do it, because we also talk about how I most likely will be doing that race as well this year.
Yeah, yeah, it's so beautiful over there, you know. It's such a amazing part of the world. It's such a the water over there is incredible. Yeah, it's just such a long way away. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I've raced there twice. I've raced Sunny Coast 70.3 a number of times. Obviously being in Brisbane, it's only just up the road.
Yes.
I did the World Championships for the 70.3 distance in 2016. So I won my age group at Port Macquarie that year and then qualified to do that, which was just an incredible experience. You know, when there's a opportunity, I think, to race at a World Championships when it's in your home country, it's just
Yeah.
there's just a bit of a different buzz to it, you know.
It's
So that
really
was
helpful, like packing all your equipment up when it's in a closer location rather than something like a busser and trying to get your bike in one piece over there.
that's right. Yeah, traveling with a bike is always just another stress to add to the mix, really. So the more you can
Absolutely.
avoid that and race locally, the better. But
Yeah.
we're very
And
fortunate in Australia to have so many wonderful races, you know, wonderful places to race and wonderful opportunities to race as well.
it's very convenient that there's an Ironman in every state except for SA and Northern Territory. So
Yeah.
we always have to travel to go and do one. We don't really have a choice in that way. But yeah, Perth seems a good option, since I've heard the swim's quite nice out there and you're in the jetty, even though there's lots of sharks around. But I guess if you swim in a big enough group.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, it is. As I said, you'll love it over there. They do an amazing event as always.
And especially helps that I've heard the bike and the run are on a flat road and there's not many hills around.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a yeah, I think it's a bit deceitful how people think the flat is easier. I don't think there's any easy Ironman or easy 70.3. I think it's just a little bit different. And often, you know, being in that one position for 90K or 180K, which you can be in Bustleton because it is so flat and it is so fast, you often see people, you know, hop off the bike in Bustleton and just, you know, those first few steps and just think, oh dear. So, you know, sometimes the hills are a bit of a blessing in disguise. You do get to stand up and change your body position. And so I
Yeah.
always say to the people I coach, you know, when you're doing Bustleton, every 20 or 30 Ks, you got to just, you know, stand up and just get in a little bit of a position, different position. Otherwise you'll just stay in that aero position all day, which, as we know, isn't the most comfortable of positions to hold for a long period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Stop giving all the top tips away. We want to win. No, that's good. And then so currently now, did you race much summer just gone, and what are the plans for this year?
Look, I didn't do a lot of. I did a little bit of racing at the start of last year. Not a lot, and then did a couple half marathons last year, and then just raced the sprint distance at Mooloolaba a couple of days ago. So that was kind of the start of my year for the year ahead.
I heard that was a very tough race in the men's field as well, with the finish line photos.
Yeah, yes, and the conditions. Mooloolaba is such a beautiful place, and we've had amazing weather here in Queensland for months. But the weekend just gone, Mother Nature decided to just turn into a washing machine. You know, it was gale force winds. It was pouring with rain. I really felt the event organisers because it was tough. So hats off to anyone who managed to get through the Saturday or Sunday racing. Because it's quite tough conditions there. But
How'd you go
so
in
I
that
did that,
race?
and I came fourth, and I did the sprint distance. So yeah, a little bit of a fun hit out.
Yeah, and then what's your plan for this year? Is a world champs on the cards again?
It is well officially haven't we officially Team Australia hasn't announced the team yet, but I did automatically qualify at the nationals in aquabike and aquathon, so that's wasn't originally my plan, but I had a bit of a tear in my piriformis early last year, so I kind of had to change plans and just kind of roll with what I could do. And at that time of qualifying, unfortunately, I couldn't run, which is a bit, you know, that's my strength. So it was a bit of a dampener. But I did well in the qualifying events that I could do, which was those two. And so the World Championships for long course and multi-sport are in Townsville in August, so I'll head up there. I've got a few who I coach who are racing as well. So, and like I said previously, any opportunity to race for Australia in Australia, I think, is one that you just simply can't turn down. So, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to that. It's going to come around really quickly. It's already mid-March.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about a world champs, what does it take to be able to qualify for one of those? I've had a few people come on and say how they've gotten to that level, but what does it really take in terms of qualifying and how many races do you have to do to get up there?
Yeah, so I guess when it's ITU, racing for Australia in terms of what Townsville is and what I spoke about in 2009, the process is a little bit different than Ironman or 70.3. I guess for Ironman, if you want to go to Kona or Nice, where they are at the moment, or 70.3 World, it's kind of it's the best athletes on that day. So you need, first, second, third, or you rely on kind of a roll down position to get a world championship spot. For the event in Townsville and for other ITU World Championship races, the process is a little bit different. So Triathlon Australia will announce between 8 and 10 races, and they take your top 3. So I always say you should do 4 because something
Just in
usually
case.
doesn't quite go to plan for one of them. And I guess it's a points based system, so it's more of I guess a doing well across a season of racing and accumulating points, as opposed to needing to turn up on one day and have a really good race and put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
I really like the way it works, because it does give people an opportunity to do a few different races and put together a good season of racing and see what they can come out with. There's usually races in every state that can make it a bit easier for people to get to. So that's kind of the process for getting to a world championships that way. And there's always one race that will be your national championships. So that's usually between Wollongong and Mooloolaba. It's in Wollongong this year. It'll be in Wollongong again next year. So when it's a national championship race, that race has double points. So, athletes that kind of go and get in the top 10 or the top 20 there can really get a pretty big swag of points, which can go
Yeah.
towards, getting them in that team. And they normally take 20 athletes in each age group. So, there are opportunities there for age groupers who have that desire. And Australia is lucky enough to have the sprint and Olympic distance world championships heading to Wollongong next year, which is really, really exciting, I think, for the sport and for elite energy events who have got the rights to that event as well. So it's a really exciting time in Australia this season and next season for athletes who, might want to, try and represent Australia.
So in terms of those qualifying races, are they all Australia wide or do a lot of those in the eastern states?
No, they are all Australia wide. So I think they kind of came out last week. This Triathlon Australia named those races, and they're from. There's races in Tasmania, Northern Territory. I saw Victor Harbour got named as one next year, which is in South Australia.
That race just happened the weekend just gone, as in this long weekend.
Yeah,
And the weather was
yeah.
like hitting close to 40, and I had a few friends race and they just said the conditions were just horrible. They were throwing water on them as they ran past, and yeah, it was hectic.
That seems last weekend of racing, just wherever you were racing, it was either not, the conditions were pretty tough. And then obviously, I mean, I think Queensland, New South Wales obviously are lucky in the sense they kind of get a couple of qualifying races. But there are definitely opportunities for every athlete in every state to kind of get in a race in their home state. And I always say to the people I coach, that the easier you can make the logistics around racing, the better. And I think Triathlon Australia have put together a pretty good 10 race season, starting qualifying for Wollongong. So I think it'll be a really good season of racing. It'll be a competitive season of racing, obviously, to get in that team, but it's an exciting time for the sport.
Oh, good. I like that the sport is really taking off. Like, it's always been big, but I feel in the last couple of years, especially with the T100 getting to the like professional level it is now, and the Olympics being this year, I think a lot of people are looking to triathlon for an exciting sport, and it is a sport when anybody can do it. You don't have to be the elite of the elite to go into a race. You can be like your local. I mean, like your local races are pretty adaptable and make anybody able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the sport is absolutely growing, and it's it is something that lots of people can do. You don't need to necessarily be at the highest level in any singular discipline. And you're seeing, I know in Queensland at the moment, the number of running groups and multi-sport groups is just booming at the moment. So I think, and
Yeah.
absolutely, like you said, I think we're seeing more broadcasting for triathlon at a higher level. What the PTO have done with the T100 series, is making people who want to get into the sport. It's making them understand the sport more and get excited about the sport. And I think that's just going to funnel down to more people wanting to be involved in races. And it's a great sport to be involved in. It's a great lifestyle to be involved in. It's a great, triathlon community, I think, is one of the most supportive and uplifting communities. And there's not many sports that you can do the same thing on the same course as the best in the world, and triathletes do have that opportunity to do that.
But then it's also interesting, on that same course you might have 5-10-year-olds, but then you've also got 80-year-olds finishing a race as well. Like, it's really nice and inclusive that all age groups from your elite and your age groupers are from the youngest, so your kids competing up to the grandparents and parents can be all competing on the same day.
Yeah, that's right. It does. Yeah, I mean, even watching Millilbar on the weekend, it's such it's a special sport because, like you said, you can have, you can have your kids, you can have yourselves, you can have your parents all racing at the same time. And yeah, it's a wonderful, I guess, the opportunities that are available now to young kids, 10 or 15 years ago, young kids couldn't be as involved as what they can be now. So, which I think is only going to, what we see in young kids as they get older, and the enjoyment and the numbers in the sports are all going to increase in a positive way. So it's an exciting time.
Absolutely. So from your love of triathlon, when did you decide that coaching was the way that you wanted to go?
Yeah, so I guess I dabbled in a bit of coaching. I did an exercise and sports science degree at University of Queensland. So, I was in with the mix with high performance sport. That was my degree. I worked at UQ Sport as well, between the gym and the pool. And then, I kind of just fell into, I guess, initially just being a bit of a fill-in coach when people were away and things like that. And then I did my coaching qualification not long after finishing uni with Triathlon Australia. And then I actually qualified as a cardiac scientist, so a little bit of a different career path. I did that for 3 or 4 years, which I enjoyed, but it wasn't, I guess my real passion is working with, athletes, and people who are, fit, healthy, wanting to kind of be the best, person that they could kind of be, type thing. I got given an opportunity a year, just after my little boy was born, to coach for another triathlon group. And I thought at the time, I enjoy coaching. It's something I can kind of do from home remotely. And if it gives me, another 6 or 12 months to be able to be at home with him, then that was an opportunity that I thought would be amazing. So I took it, and I guess I worked for them in the end for 4 years, and I ended up being a head coach in that company. Learned so much from them, really enjoyed my time working there. And then in 2019, in November, I thought, running my own business and wanting to have my own coaching group was something that I'd always wanted to do. So I kind of took the plunge, ironically five months before a pandemic. And I started my own coaching company, so EQ Performance Coaching. It's all online. I've got athletes who just simply want to compete and keep fit, through to athletes who have, been to Kona, wanting to go back to Kona. I've got multiple athletes who have qualified for 70.3 Worlds, or who are doing the ITU Worlds. And I guess I just love it. I can combine my love for the sport. I can draw on my degree that I've done, and my experience racing and working with previous coaches in the past. And I think, people are very busy, so I think that sometimes getting to a session at a certain place at a certain time with a group, it doesn't suit everyone at certain stages of life. And I think the beauty of being able to coach online and to deliver training plans online is you can really just work quite individually with each athlete, and get the most out of them and the time they have available for training. And I really enjoy it. I've got people throughout Australia. I've got a couple in Singapore. I've worked with a few people in the UK and the US. So I guess another benefit of the online world is that you can work with people, all over the world. So
Yeah.
that's where 2009. Yeah, so I've been doing that for my own thing for just over 4.5 years now.
Oh, good. I think when you find a niche like triathlon and turn it into a career and something that you love, it just makes the job a lot easier. But also being able to help that many people around the world must be so rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, it is really rewarding, and it's obviously, I'm not working with professional athletes. It's not something that we get paid for to do in terms of racing or training, but to see people, achieve goals that they once thought might not have been possible, or to do a PB, or to get back to racing at a level they were prior to an injury or prior to having a young family and things like that. It's it's a really great journey to be part of. And all of the people I work with are really good people. I think that's one of my biggest things is that, a good athlete is one thing, but to be a good person as well as a good athlete is something that is really, really important for me to work with those kind of people. And yeah, there's, like I said, with the racing opportunities in Australia and around the world, there's something on every weekend, from fun runs through to triathlons or ocean swims or duathlons. We're very lucky, and I think when people have a desire to swim or bike or run or just improve their personal results, it really it's motivating as a coach, and it's motivating for them as an athlete. And if you can find someone who you get on well with, who you respect, it's a great partnership to be able to have.
Yeah, I think that's really important, finding a coach that you get along well with, because the point when you don't get along well with them, that's when everything just goes south. Big news time. We have a big brand new sponsor for the Wellness League podcast. So, can you guess who it is?
Hi, I'm Lana from Live and Breathe Active, or LAB, a small family-run business run by a group of passionate people that, well, we live and breathe this shit. Whether it's run, swim, cycle, or try, we make gear to get you through those tough training sessions. We help you get up before sunrise, and we will still be there with you well after sunset. You will see us before you hear us, with bespoke prints designed by artists just for you. We are driven by our values and are focused on performance and community. And we are super proud to be partnering with the Wellness League podcast in the Try series. Find out more or shop online at liveandbreatheactive.com. We can't wait to have you as part of the crew.
How good is that, hey? Discount codes and the link will be in the bio. But you know what? Let's go back to the pod. From what you've learned from training and coaching, what would you give somebody new to the sport, or somebody like an age group athlete wanting to go further within the sport and their training?
I think realizing that we choose to do this. We don't. 99% of us aren't going to get paid for this. It's not your family is still going to love you whether you do it or don't do it. If we're honest, I think initially, if you're just getting into the sport, just don't take things too seriously. Enjoy it. Surround yourself with people who have a lot of knowledge, but at the same time, just people are always quite quick to put their 2 cents in, and you should be doing this or that, or more of this or less of that. I think sometimes you've just got to be a bit selective and filter out the noise, and trust your process. And sometimes for some people that is working with a coach and having that relationship with them and that partnership and being able to put your trust in someone. And other people, I think it's just staying on your own course and realizing that at the end of the day, it is an endurance sport. It's not something that is going to happen, you're going to improve in overnight. The best age groupers have been in the sport for a long time. And it does become like a lifestyle, it becomes something that you chip away at week after week, month after month, year after year. And, those who I guess are consistent over a long period of time are the athletes who not only I think get rewards, but also enjoy the process a lot more. I have people who often come to me and say, I want to do an Ironman and it's 3 or 4 months away. And whilst I always think that individual is, is capable of doing it. I think you want to enjoy the process of what you're trying to do and the goal that you're aiming towards. And if you've got a full-time job, if you've got a family, if you've got other responsibilities, often, you want to integrate your training into life, not the other way around. So, I think they would be kind of my biggest takeaways. I do think having a coach or someone that you can work with or mentor really does help. We often try and overthink things ourselves if we're left to our own devices, or we do too much of something and not enough of, often we do too much of the things that we're good at or that we enjoy and not enough of the things that we might need to improve on. And then, we get to race day and we're like, well, why haven't this improved? But if you go back and you reflect on your training, then perhaps there's areas that you might be neglecting, which could be something that someone else could bring out in you and get to the end result in a more enjoyable way.
Yeah, it seems to be common this year that a lot of people are getting into running, or they're jumping into doing a lot of training their own, but then doing some sessions with people, and it really helps to train when you've got people next to you, like in the swimming pool, to kind of simulate what it's going to be like in the racing as well. What do you think about doing separate sessions and then jumping in with a group to help?
Yeah, I think, there's no doubt about it. Doing things with other people, we humans want to be around other humans, we want to be around other people. I think the rise in, especially women joining running groups is, it's just gone crazy in the recent months. Gold Coast Marathon, Melbourne Marathon, Gold Coast Half Marathon, they're sold out within weeks of the event opening, whereas, a couple of years ago you could enter those events a few days before. So I think, the running culture has really, really, gone really exponentially increased in Australia recently. And I think, there's no reason why age group athletes shouldn't be able to dabble in. I have a number of athletes who will do a swim squad once or twice a week, who might do an easy run with a group of friends or a group of athletes. And I think it just comes down to what your goal is in the sport. I've got people who I say, well, to get the most out of the session and to kind of work towards your goals, then you do need to do some sessions by yourself. On race day, you are out there. If we're talking long course, you are out there for between 6 and 16 hours for some people doing an Ironman, and you're not going to have that constant reinforcement and constant group conversation around you. So I think it's finding that mix of both. Obviously you want to keep your cup full. You want to immerse yourself with other people. You want to do things that make you feel good. And that's often, running with a group or riding with a group. But I think it's also realizing that, okay, my goal, whatever that might be, might call on me to do some, intervals by myself, or, some sessions on a treadmill or in the garage by myself, where it's just me inside my own thoughts. And I can, get the most of yourself from both kind of realms of training.
I think definitely having a good combination, like this is how I train, is I do like a swim and a run with a group, but all my other sessions are done alone. And I think it's just a really good combination to have that, especially with the swim and getting used to people swimming around you, because you can't train for that when you swim alone. But I mean, the mental side of triathlon is probably the toughest part. You can be the fittest person, but once you get out on a course, like you said, for those type of hours between your 5 to 16 hours, is the mental side that can really stuff everything over. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think, like you said, you can do every training session perfectly for months, 12 months plus. But if you don't, have a positive mindset, if you don't have the mental tools that you need for triathlon is not an easy sport. We teach ourselves to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's to put yourself in that position for a long period of time is not something that, many people would voluntarily put their hand up to do. But I think, it comes down to why people choose to do it. And I think that is, it's a sport that does include everyone from all walks of life. It's a sport that you can include your family. You can have kids on bikes. You can have, your partner meet you with water bottles. It can be something that you can include lots of people in. Whilst I also understand it is a selfish sport in some respect, I do think it does allow you to be quite social with it and quite inclusive of other people. And I think, yeah, I mean, if you want to any distance really, but especially with your longer course, your half Ironman and Ironman, I think you really need to be mentally strong, as much as you do need to be physically fit. And if you're not, and I think that comes down to enjoyment as well. You see so many athletes, especially Ironman, 2 or 3 weeks out from their Ironman race, and they're done. They're exhausted. They want it to be over. I'm selling my, you see it all the time. I'm selling my bike after this. I don't want to do this anymore. And I think for me as a coach, one of the biggest things I try and make sure I work really well with the athlete it's a little bit cliche, but you kind of want to hurry slowly. You want to be fit and excited and ready for your race on race day, not 2 or 3 months beforehand. And I think age group athletes notoriously do get a little bit too excited too quick. And that can be one of the downsides of groups. You often think, oh, well, he or she is doing double what I'm doing, but we're doing the same distance or the same race at the same time. I need to go and do more and more and more. So I think really just staying true to your training path and true to, your history in the sport, what your goals are, and not kind of being drawn into everyone else's world is really important as well. And again, I guess having a coach or a mentor or someone that can kind of keep you in check with those things is often a very, I think, a beneficial part of doing well in the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a busy mother, how do you find time to train yourself?
Yeah, I don't do as much as I used to, that's for sure. But I try and always get up early before the kids get up. They are a little bit older now, so I guess I'm not having to worry about naps or, breastfeeding or bottle feeding or things like that. And yeah, so I try and get things done in the morning. I find it's, even if I'm not training necessarily for a specific event, I find just starting the day, doing something for yourself, swimming, biking or running, you just feel so much better within yourself. And I know I'm a better mom, I'm a better partner, I'm a better at working, more productive if I do that for myself in the morning. Not every morning, obviously, things come up and, I've got a partner who does things in the morning as well. So it's just, I think, being organized and working out a schedule for the family that's going to fit in with everyone and make things as easy as possible. And I think realizing, that things don't have to be done at a certain time on a certain day, for years before I had kids, I'd train every morning, I'd train every lunchtime, and I'd train every afternoon. And I kind of tried to hold on to that for a long time. And it took me a little while to realize, it's not possible with where life is at the moment. But it doesn't mean you still can't get some quality within your training. And I think that's a really important aspect for age groupers, is to realize that sometimes quality is more important than quantity. More isn't always better. And that.
Did you train all the way when you were pregnant with the kids? Did you train as much as possible as well, like within means of what you were still able to do?
Yeah, so I swam all the way through with both of them. I ran, I think I kind of gave up running, well, not gave up, but running got too uncomfortable around that 6-month mark with my firstborn. And I think it was a little bit earlier than that with my secondborn, my little girl. But it became more not training, it became exercising. And I guess, again, mental health welfare is to get out and do something. So yeah, I did, I walked and I kept going to the gym. I did F45, which is a strength kind of class, right the way up until a few days before I had my little girl. So I think it's just, everyone is so different. Every female is so different what they go through in pregnancy. And it's just finding what feels right for you.
And then also what you've done before you got pregnant as well, and trying to continue that. Like I've heard a lot of people be like, oh, I'm pregnant, I better get moving. Do you know what I mean? Like if you haven't been that fit or in that movement, patterns don't start anything brand new.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as soon as I found out I was pregnant with each of my kids, I didn't ride on the road. that was a personal choice. And, things obviously dramatically decreased, but I was still probably doing a lot more than what some people, lots of people who weren't pregnant were doing. But like you said, it's all relative to what you were doing and the level of fitness you're at. And I absolutely 100% agree. You would never start anything new or kind of different to what you were doing, but it's, I guess, just kind of toning down or adapting what you can do. And that makes you feel good. I think I spent a couple of months there where I thought I had to keep running. And in the end, I was like, it doesn't feel good. I'm not enjoying it. And I think...
So coming back after having children, how did you find like the build up again to get back to where you were pre-pregnancy?
Yeah, I certainly found it easier the first time around than the second time around. I actually raced the World Duathlon Championships when my little boy was just 11 weeks old. So
oh my God.
Obviously wasn't planned that way. It was actually in Adelaide in 2015, and I'd qualified before I was pregnant with him. And I just thought, well, I'll just see how I go. I hadn't, I definitely wasn't fit at all, but it was just about the being able to go and be a part of it. I think, there's no set time for it. Everyone's timing is different. Everyone's path to get back to fitness is different, and it looks different for every child after. As I said, I felt like I bounced back a lot quickly with my son compared to my daughter 4 years later, but you also have you have a toddler as well as a newborn at that time. So yeah, I think it's just, I also think you need to appreciate that you have little ones, little newborns for such a little period of time. And I think for my second one, my little boy, I really wanted to, once I got that clearance, I really wanted to get back out there and get fit. Whereas I think you need to just appreciate that those new moments they don't come around, they happen once, twice, 3 times maybe, and you will get back there. And if it means having some, extra sleep-ins or extra time with your little ones, I think you should always take that over getting back to peak fitness a couple of weeks or even months earlier. So just find your own way, I guess, is the best message.
And the children now, do they get involved with your training too? Are they out there on the bikes when you're training or running next to you yet?
Yeah, my little boy, he's 8. He loves his swimming and his, soccer. I haven't done any little triathlons as such with him, but he will ride his bike with me while I run, which unfortunately for him now, he's 8, wants to ride quite fast, and I obviously don't run to the speed he can ride, so he finds it a bit more tedious these days. But they see me run and ride and swim, and I think they're fit little kids just from what they want to do. And, as I guess the opportunities I got as a kid, we try and let them do, what they want to do. And if that's triathlon when they're a little bit older, then that's great. If that's not, then, that's totally great too.
Yeah. So your tips to improve, just like a couple of tips, so maybe 1 or 2 tips for each discipline for somebody to improve what they're working on at the moment in terms of their swimming, biking and running.
Okay, so I think swimming is, you need to swim, and you need to swim more days than you don't. So often age groupers will swim once or twice a week. Swimming is a sport where it takes a lot of time to make a very small improvement. It's also a very technical sport. So, if you are new to the sport, if you can have someone film you, or if you can, have a coach kind of critique your technique, you could save so much time by just seeing someone view your stroke and getting some feedback that way. I think being consistent in the water, doing 3 or 4 smaller swims a week is so much better than doing, say, a long swim once a week and then not going back to the pool, for another 5, 6, 7 days, because you just need to keep a feel for the water a little bit. Yeah, so that would kind of be my swimming ones. I think riding is just, again, time on the bike, I think. And, we've got so many virtual trainer platforms now, which are, amazing. I think they've changed the way we ride. I do think, and I'm guilty of this, I ride in on Zwift in the trainer 99% of the time, but I think it is really important to, you don't get bike handling skills on the trainer. You don't get that road resistance. You know, you don't get a feel for what different surfaces on the road feel like on the trainer. And you don't get that feeling of having people around you on the trainer, which if you front up to a race and you haven't had someone ride past you or behind you or in front of you, especially as a newbie, can be quite confronting and a little bit intimidating.
I think also the point, being on a trainer, you don't have the experience of taking your bike and then trying to click in while you move. When I was racing a fair bit, I did a lot of my training like in spin classes and on the trainer, just because that's what my lifestyle was at the time, and I'd get out on the road once or twice a week. But yeah, there's nothing that can teach you how to run and click in like actually being on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And even little things, you know, like reaching for your drink bottle,
Yeah,
or reaching behind you to grab your gels out of your back pocket or whatever it might be. You know, that's really easy on the trainer when nothing's moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think you know, athletes, regardless of your ability, your goals, you need to be getting out on the road once a week. I understand, you know, for example, and living in a city, you know, riding on the road during the week is often, you know, it can be quite dangerous and it's so busy and everything like that. So I try and say to you know, my guys, I'm like, if you can get out, try and get out on the weekend, you know, and do your long ride on the road, and practice all those little things that you take for granted and need to be able to do well on in race day, regardless of your, you know, regardless of where you place in a race. You need to be safe and confident on the bike.
Yeah, we're fairly lucky here in SA that there's a stretch of road that goes for about, we rode it a couple of weekends ago, and it's about a 50k return loop. But there's cars on the road, but it's pretty much a one-way each way, and the cars are pretty happy because there's cyclists everywhere every weekend. So I feel like finding a place like that, you don't have to go on the main roads, but finding a road that is that little bit quieter and flatter or less obstacles on the road to ride is the best way around it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like, you know, crit tracks or, you know, we've got like there's a, you know, a 20-kilometer bike path along kind of the motorway out here. So, you know, if you do have that anxiety around cars, which I think so many people do, you know, just go to the crit track or do laps up and down the, you know, the bike path. It's not necessarily the most exciting riding, but you're going to feel a bit safer and you're still going to be riding outdoors and having the opportunity to practice those things, you know, that we just spoke about.
And then in terms of running too?
In terms of running, I think we are all guilty of, and the biggest thing that I see athletes do is I think people run too hard too often. So, you know, we have, you know, your easy running, which should predominantly be the bulk of your training. It should be super easy. You know, it should be conversational pace. You should be able to sing a sentence of a song. And quite often I see, you know, athletes will be doing their easy runs at kind of 70%. And often, you know, this can be, I guess, a negative of running with a group is that if you run with a group all the time for your easy runs, you are running to someone else's easy usually. And I think, you know, I think we just need to understand that it's an aerobic sport. You need to build your aerobic engine, and how you do that is by running easy. And that on the flip side of this, you know, when you do have a harder session or some intervals or a hill session, you want to have the energy to be really able to do those and do those well. You know, it should be a small part of your training, but it should be a part of the training that you look to with being excited about and being able to execute the efforts really well. And if you've done your, you know, 3 runs prior to that, which are all meant to have been easy, actually moderate or a little bit harder than moderate, often you'll arrive at these sessions and you won't have that energy that you need to execute them well. And, you know, with that comes a spiral effect that, well, I don't feel I ticked off this session well, or you know, I'm not getting any faster, or often athletes just, you know, some people call it kind of that gray zone or that dead zone. We spend so much time there where I think you need to be aware of that, and you need to make sure when it's easy, it's truly easy. And you know, often the social media platforms, you know, people don't want to see how easy someone can run. But I think just being true to yourself and knowing that to get the most out of yourself, you really need to nail those easy runs and then have the capacity to do well on the harder ones.
I do think with the running trend becoming such a big thing this year, a lot of people are talking about starting off really slow. So like building up your runs, but you're first coming into running, you don't have to go fast. Like your 5K doesn't have to be quick. It's more important that you do it slower and actually get to the end without wanting to like fall over and finish, rather than like build it up and then see how you get there. But yeah, it almost like with a running group, it is very complicated because you always have people who obviously have a bigger running background and do run a lot faster. I do find that we kind of break off into different timed groups, and that's the best way to work around that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And lots of groups will be broken up into similar time-based groups. And I think, if you're training on your own, you need to think, well, the best way you're going to improve in the sport is by being consistent over a long period of time. And running it's weight bearing. It's the leg where you will pick up the most injuries. It's the most taxing on your body. And, you are far better to be a little bit more cautious, do more easy running than not. And then, be able to put together 6-12 months of running well and uninjured than kind of going hell for leather for a couple of months and then having to have 2 or 3 weeks off every training cycle because you've got a niggle here or a niggle there. Age group athletes who are running, they're super easy runs in these carbon $400 shoes and wondering why you get injured. I think we just need to go back to the basics a little bit and, your best way to improve and move forward in the sport and enjoy the sport is if you can keep chipping away and doing the things that you want to do that will help you improve. And, I think that should be a lot of easy run, especially if you're a beginner,
I think also back to the fancy shoe thing, I think it's also important to wear the right shoes when running. I know when I started running this year, I had a couple of years off properly running because I wanted to focus more on the swimming and lifting weights side with a bit of CrossFit that was in there too. But coming back, I found wearing just even the Kayanos that I'd worn in over a year that I was starting off with a lot of knee pain and it just wasn't working well. So I think it's important to go and get your shoes properly fitted into something that's going to work for you. Something as simple as that, I found I've run so much nicer, and finishing a run is a lot nicer not to be in pain than it is, being in pain? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's so many different shoe types now.
Absolutely.
And, sole thickness and width and everything like that. There is something that will work for you. It's just finding that. And, there's obviously pretty shoes that people are drawn to, but if they don't work for you, they're not going to be at all beneficial.
Yeah, nobody's judging your shoes. They're just looking at all your socks.
That's right. Just go for good socks and the right shoe.
Yeah, exactly. So name a sliding door moment in your life where you've gone left or right to kind of change progression of your future.
Oh gosh. I guess I had an opportunity in when I was at university to go and race overseas in France for a French Grand Prix, like a French racing team.
Yeah.
That a girlfriend of mine who was already over there kind of got me into, and I didn't go, which I chose. I was happy in Australia. I was studying. I just met someone. My family is my everything. So the thought of being overseas and racing, for 6 months and not kind of having them there, it didn't work for me at the time. And I often think what would have happened if I had gone versus if I hadn't gone. But I think you always make the right decision for the right time for what that decision is in that moment.
Yeah.
And I think I wouldn't change a thing. That person I met, I ended up getting married to, and we have 2 kids, and we have a beautiful house and in a beautiful part of the world. So I think hindsight's a beautiful thing. We can always look back and wonder, what if I'd done this? What if I've done that? But I think you've just got to, I guess, make the most of the opportunities and the choices that you make. And
yeah,
you can always you can always be challenged and get amazing results in whatever path you choose. So I think that's important to remember.
Is there Firstly, what are you consuming at the moment in terms of book, podcasts, and TV shows or anything?
I don't read very much, which isn't very good at all. I find when my kids are asleep, I feel the urgent need to get to sleep because you never know when one of them will be up again. I do love podcasts though. So I run with podcasts. I ride on the trainer to podcasts, usually 99% triathlon related. So I really love the Purple Patch Matt Dixon podcast. I think he has a lot of, he's quite down to earth, quite genuine, and really, speaks to me in a lot of ways that I coach. So I love that podcast. I love the Crushing Iron podcast, which again is just, two guys in America really talking pretty basically about triathlon, but they really do it in a relatable way. And I think I often send screenshots to a lot of the people I coach because they just seem to break down things so genuinely, and, they do a really good job of it. And the Greg Bennett show, he is a Australian guy, ex-professional triathlete, and he interviews pro triathletes. So,
cool.
Those three would probably be my pick. And there's a few other ones, I guess, that are more exercise science specific if I'm really feeling the brain power to learn and listen a little bit more. But I think those three are really good, especially for people new to the sport or who might be taking on like an Ironman for the first time or something like that. They've got hundreds of episodes, and you can normally find one that can be quite relatable to the training phase or how you're feeling. I think if we always think that we might be the only one feeling something, but you go through and listen to how other people have felt in the same position, and it can be quite comforting, and you can learn a lot from it.
All right, the next one is on your social media. What is the theme that you see a lot of?
Oh gosh. Holiday spots, I think. And I am all for like you see a cruise, or you see a holiday spot advertised, or you see a ski in Japan package, and you hit it, and then the next thing that comes up, the phone recognizes that you want to go places. So my feed is just full of travel destinations and travel spots, and anywhere where there might be a race like the Singapore PTO, Asian Open, would be nice to tie in a little holiday with that and things like that. So I love travel, and I love travel blogs and seeing other people travel. So that would be what probably I see the most of when I'm scrolling.
So good. It's so inspiring to watch people travel around the world, especially when you've done it a bit as well. Got a fun part. This is called the listener questions. So a mutual friend of ours who recommended you to come on the pod has sent through a couple of questions. The first one was, what was your best race ever?
My best race ever. I think my best race ever was actually at Mooloolaba, probably 5 or 6 years ago now. It was the national championships race that I spoke about earlier. It was to try and get points towards representing Australia on the Gold Coast in 2018. And I was super fit. My little boy was about 2.5, and on the Friday night, up at Mooloolaba, he was hospitalized with a fever and croup, and just I spent the night in hospital with him in his little hospital bed, and I had completely given up all hope of even making the start line in that race. He got out. I think we got released on like Saturday afternoon, and we were already up there, my family, and I thought, if he is okay to be without me for 2.5 hours or whatever it might be, then I will still race. I didn't take my watch. I didn't take my bike computer. I had no sleep at all because obviously, having been ambulanced to hospital the night before, I just watched him the entire Saturday night.
Yeah.
I had thrown out all expectations of having any kind of good performance. And it was one of my best Olympic distance races I've ever done. I think I had an amazing swim. I rode with, the top 3 girls my age group, and it came down to a running race with, 2 or 3 of the best age groupers it was an Australian champs. So, in Australia at that time, not sure what I finished, to be honest. I think it might have been 4th or 5th, but it kind of just showed me that sometimes letting go of all expectations can be a really amazing thing. And that, I just raced for me that day. I forgot about points. I forgot about why I was there. And I think also realizing that even though things can turn completely to crap in the day or the two before the race, that your body is capable of doing really good things, and that if you just go out and trust the months of work prior to it, you can still put together a really good race. So I think that one sticks out to me the most.
The next one was, they asked, how does it feel to be beaten by an 8-year-old in the pool?
I know. I think that's my son, yes. He definitely would have me over a 50. He would have me in any form. He's quite a good little butterflyer, which, I haven't done butterfly since I was 12. But I do remind him that I would have him over 100 or 200 meters. So I'm going to hold on to that for probably another year or two. But I love seeing him race. I think it's amazing the level that young kids are at these days. You don't. It's pretty. Yeah, it's mind blowing, to be honest. What some young kids are capable of doing. I was at a carnival the other day, and I think the 9-year-old girl's record in Queensland got broken. And the little girl swam a 1:11 for 100 meters, which for a little 9-year-old is pretty impressive. So
crazy.
Yeah, but my son does constantly remind me that he is the fastest swimmer in the house. So
the next one, what's the biggest challenge you've faced while coaching?
Biggest challenge? I think it's, I've coached a lot of people who I've worked with for many, many years, 6, 7 years. And with that comes almost a relationship to a degree. You get to know the person quite well. You know of their family, of their friends, of their highs and their lows and their struggles. And I think a good coach needs to be aware of this, because you need to understand what is going on in someone's life other than just what's on training peaks. And with working with a group of people for so long, like all of us, people go through things or experience losses and things like that. And yeah, it's sometimes hard to detach. It can be hard at times to, detach from that coach athlete to coach friend. And if you work with someone for a long period of time or even a short period of time, and I think as a coach, you have to care about the individual and the person and want them to be happy and want them to do well at all aspects of their life, not just triathlon. There's been some tough moments for people I've coached over the years, and that's sometimes hard to work through with them and to come out the other side. So we all have things going on in life. If you work with 20 or 30 people that also have things going on in life, it's kind of inevitable that you will get drawn up in some things that are hard at times, but it's all part of it.
What's the most frustrating thing when you're a coach?
I don't have time.
Excuses then?
The excuse, the comment that I don't have time. I think we all have the same amount of time. We all have 24 hours in a day, and I think we all, understandably, there are people who are super busy with full-time jobs, with families, with life, with, I have people who care for elderly parents, et cetera, et cetera. I think, if you choose to have a goal or you choose to race or compete, that you make time for what is important to you. And I think, I'm not saying at all that things don't happen last minute, that people get sick, that you need to take unexpected days off when a loved one or a family member or something is sick. Not at all saying that, but it's, I think if something is important to you and you want to improve and you want to, do a half Ironman in December or whatever your goal might be, then you find the time to do the 30 minutes, the 60 minutes, the 90 minutes, because otherwise I think you have to expect, the goal that might not happen and things like that. I think, people often sometimes don't respect the triathlon, especially long course, and think that, it'll be right, or I'll just, it's winter, I'll start after winter. But I think it might have sounded a little bit harsh, but I think, we all find time for what we prioritize, and when life is busy and crazy, it's just a matter of, trying to fit things in. And I guess that's the benefit of having a coach or having someone that can say, 30 minutes or 20-minute run is better than nothing at all. That comes with a host of, mental benefits and, physiological benefits as well. So, yeah, that would kind of be my little pet peeve.
So the T100 we spoke about, the champs. What are your predictions on what's going to happen and who's going to come out top this year?
Yeah, so it's just I watched the one yesterday and Sunday. Look, I'm a huge Lucy Charles-Barclay fan.
Yeah.
I adore her. I think she's amazing for the sport. I'm also a huge Ashley Gentle fan. So I think at the moment, Ashley Gentle is the queen of the 100-kilometer distance. But I also think there's 8 races in the T100 series. I think not all of them are going to be able to do all of that. I think it'll come down to, I guess, who picks specific races and who can, I guess, get there and nail those races that they pick. My pick would be that Ash Gentle will probably still come out on top. I can't see, her run and Annie Haag's run are just superior to the rest of the field. But you never know. I mean, there was a Indiana Lee won on the weekend and no one was picking her to win. So I think you just never know. And the sport is, you never know what these athletes have been doing over the past 6 months, and what races they're going to pick. So it's exciting. It's
I was listening to it Jack's podcast, and he just released a series with 3 of the female T100 athletes, and they were all talking about how they were going to get around the season at the start of the year. I think it comes out every Friday. They have a chat about how their training's going and everything. But they all said, the 8 being all around the world is going to be really difficult to get to all of them, and they do like that they didn't have to do. I think they can miss 2. Is that right? And they were just saying, how they've got to be very strategic which ones they do miss out on, and ease on the travel for their own bodies, but also to be able to get the points to get up there at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and especially like it's an Olympic year as well, which we forget. You've got young Taylor Knibb, who's a phenomenal athlete over the Olympic distance and the half Ironman distance. She has a bit of a different contract. She doesn't actually have to come into the series until after the Olympics. So I think so she doesn't have to do as many as the other athletes who aren't going to the Olympics. Taylor Spivey, also from the US, she has a wild card in the PTO. So I really think you're not going to really know until kind of those last few races.
You think also, it not being a Kona year for the females, that less people will be doing Ironman distance and will be pushing more of these T100, especially for those athletes that were chosen to race that?
Yeah, I think so. I think personally, Nice as an Ironman world champion course for women won't attract as big of a field as what Kona would for the women.
Exactly, yeah.
As a professional or age group, because remember these T100 races are open to age groupers as well. You'd have to have a pretty nice wallet to be able to travel the world as an age grouper to all 8. But yeah, I mean, if you look at someone like Lucy Charles-Barclay, she came out and said she's not going to do Nice. She's going to target the T100. At the end of the day, this is their job. They do make a living off it, and financially, what the PTO is able to offer them, I think,
they're crazy not to commit to that.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, Ash Gentle has set, world champs for half Ironman are in New Zealand this year as well. So I think you'll see more athletes in that kind of 70.3 distance and the T100 female-wise as opposed to Ironman. I think the men's Ironman, given it's in Kona this year, will still be pretty that will be a pretty hotly contended race. Yeah.
The last one from our friend is 10 world champs is pretty special. What's next?
Well, I've been saying for years that I want to run a marathon. And every year I'll say I'll do it next year.
So which race are you doing?
Yeah, I think I should actually. I would have loved to have done Melbourne, but it sold out. They all sold out so quickly. But I mean, I've got Townsville World Championships this year. I think I'd really like to have a crack at doing Wollongong next year. As I said at the start of the podcast, that Olympic distance racing, I'm going back a while now, but that was kind of my love and my niche distance. So yeah, I think, probably swimming, biking and running as the kids are getting into weekends of sport, as opposed to just kind of running for a couple of years might kind of take a break or look a little bit differently. But I think for now, the focus is on Townsville. And as I said, I'd love to get to Wollongong. I'd love to take a group that I coach who are also keen to go down.
And then I think appearance at Busso with half your people who will be racing there.
Yeah, so I try. Yeah, I think if I've got a few, I try and always go there and watch. I love Bustleton. Like any excuse to go over there and support and be coach / cheer squad, I'm always keen for. But yeah, so I think I need to enter a marathon soon because otherwise I just kept saying next year, and I need to do instead of keep saying.
All right, on to my favourite part of the podcast. It's called 5 Fast Questions. The numbers are in between 1 and number 20. And so it's the first thing that comes to your mind. Once you say the number, you literally just have to spit out the answer.
Okay.
All right. What's your first number?
3.
Okay. Number 3. If you could go back to a month in your life, when, where, and why?
December. I love Christmas. I love summer. So especially Christmas time with little kids. So let's go back to December.
Love that. Next number.
7.
Number 7 is, what is your coffee order?
I actually don't drink coffee, which I'm a bit ashamed to say.
Equivalent
I always
drink.
say to people.
Or equivalent drink.
I'm a bit of a smoothie fan or a hot chocolate fan.
Nice. What's in your smoothie?
Banana or mixed berries.
Love that. All right, next number.
10.
Okay, if a movie was made about your life, who is playing you as the character?
Scarlett Johansson, because I mean,
that's a good one.
If you got to choose, let's go with her.
All right, 2 more to go. What's the next number?
Number 2.
And number 2 is coffee or a hot chocolate with somebody dead or alive. Who are you having it with?
I would go my grandma. She's no longer with us, so I would have a hot chocolate with her.
Yeah, that's a common one. A grandparent always comes up with that one, but it's always so special. Last number.
15.
Okay, number 15 is your favourite place in the world.
I've done a lot of traveling, and the Greek islands come to mind, but I also think I love Noosa. I love Noosa so much, training, racing, holidaying, national park walks with the kids, eating, hinterland, beach. So I'd take Noosa as my favourite place.
Thank you so much for your time today. You were a great one to interview about the sport of triathlon and where you've gone, and inspiring the next generation to come up, or the age groupers out there at the moment in terms of your coaching. It's great. Thank you for having me. It was wonderful to chat, and it's like I said, it's exciting time for triathlon, and lots happening in the next couple of years for anyone to kind of dabble in. So I think if you're thinking about it, you should give it a go, and you're normally always surprised yourself. You can always start on a mountain bike and the running shoes you got in the garage. You don't have to go out and buy a 20 grand bike to start on. Absolutely. No, that's right. Yeah. Just do it, because one day, there's one day you won't be able to. So I think if you've got that desire or a little inkling, then give it a go. You'll never regret it. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for your time. You have a good day. You too. Wow, isn't Emma just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the sport of triathlon? I have never heard somebody with so much knowledge and full of facts and information that can help any athlete, anything from your local race to a full Ironman distance. Emma just had so many juicy tips and tricks, but if you want more of Emma, I'll put all her links in the show notes, including her Instagram, and if you need a new coach, go and hit up Emma, because she is great. A big thank you to Lab, or Live and Breathe, for sponsoring this podcast. It's huge to team up with a great brand like this. So the discount code is TWLPOD 15 for 15% off. It will also be in the show notes as well as the link. But I have been a lover for Lab products for years. Before this, it was called Catfish Designs for everybody who's in the triathlon world. I have been testing the Lab shorts, and if you know me, I hate wearing shorts, especially to go running in, because I am one of those girlies who always gets the chafe. But since I've been wearing the Lab shorts, I have not had any chafe problems, and these shorts do not roll up or down. It is so good. Combined with their really cool patterns on their shorts, I think you need to go and get yourself some today. So thank you for listening to this ep. Please subscribe wherever you're listening to. Don't forget to like. And if you want to do one better, share it with a friend. If you haven't already, go and give the Try Me series. Episode 1 was all about the equipment that is needed to make your training and racing life a whole lot easier. It's not very often that you find a whole list of items that you need to start in the sport of triathlon, so we have delivered. Episode 2 is a big one coming out this Friday, so get ready to jump on that ep because it's going to be great. But the Try Me series, it's an amazing 12-part series where I've teamed up with my 2 great friends from the triathlon racing scene, and we talk about everything from starting your first triathlon to the equipment that you need and how to get better. And this 12-part series is one that you don't want to miss because it is full of amazing, juicy content. Have a wonderful rest of your day, have the best week, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye!